I got another One Piece battle for you guys today. And this one is current Aokiji versus current Kizaru. Aokiji used to be a Marine, now he's Blackbeard Pirate. You know, still able to fight and bang it out like he, usually does, despite having a prosthetic leg. Kizaru kept his position at Admiral, and he still works for the Marines. This fight is going to take place, y'all. This fight's going to take place at Egghead. All right? Strength, physical striking power, lifting power, that's going to our guy, Aokiji. You know, when you look at their opponents and who they're fighting against, banging against, throwing fists against, Aokiji was fighting against a tougher opponent and still doing damage to this guy, by the way. Yes, Aokiji was doing damage to Garp. You know, Kizaru was, pushing Rayleigh, you know, but, it's pretty obvious that, stronger. Also, Aokiji, pressed Akainu to such a degree, he scarred Akainu. And scarring Akainu was not an easy feat, right? Especially when this guy has an affinity that is weaker, right? He has ice. Akainu had magma. I don't even think Kizaru is gonna do damage to Akainu, man. To be honest, he's not gonna get too many like lasting scars on him. I don't think so. Um, but when it comes to speed, there's no doubt in my mind. I ain't gonna cap or anything, but it's definitely fucking Kizaru. He ate the glint glint fruit. The light abilities make him fast as fuck, right? He got shot off the island and he just came right back to the island. When he was fighting against Luffy, right? Came right back just as quick. Durability wise, I give it to Aokiji. Slight edge to Aokiji. You know, I don't know, man. I think Aokiji, if he got hit by that punch, he would probably, shake that shit off a little better. Um, I just believe he would. He's getting punched by Garp. Garp is not a weak ass man, right? He don't punch like a bitch. And he was able to get back up from that. That tells me he has, some pretty good durability. He wasn't damaged that much either. I mean, he coughed up a little bit, but not as much as you would think. That's Garp. Oh shit, Garp did. He's up again, man. Not damaged to such too much a degree. Kizu, he looked a little more for him. Um, endurance wise, the long drawn out fight. Katie, but let's go to that he fought against who for 10 days? Akainu for 10 days. Somebody who had, like, again, I said this already, an affinity that is weaker, right? The ice to magma. You know what's gonna win, right? The magma. But this guy fought this guy for 10 days straight before a winner was even decided. This man's hockey was involved. His hockey was involved in this fight. Kept him in there longer. We got Aokiji. Kizaru hasn't fought anybody that long. Intelligence wise, I give it to Aokiji. I know that he can think a little bit more for himself. To me, that's a person who's smarter. You know, at least to me. And it ain't like he doesn't know how to work with other people. He doesn't have that ability to cooperate. He was in the fucking Marines. He did his job. He caused the superiors. He told people what to do in the lower ranks. He did Kizu's job and more. Bro, he's smarter. Environment wise or experience wise, Kizaru, because I know Kizaru is older than Aokiji, and he probably started before him. Close skills though go to Aokiji. He learned from the boxer himself. Garp. Garp the Fifth trained Aokiji in armament hockey, or not armament hockey, but punching battleships without it. And then eventually that made his hockey pretty damn good too. Um, what else do I have? I have range skills going to Kizaru. He can shoot those light beams from afar. He can get away from Aokiji and start shooting off these beams. And they can do some damage to Aokiji. Maybe. But as soon as he comes back in, Aokiji has the advantage. Recovery goes to Aokiji. Again, he lost his leg and he's still out here banging with people. He's still out here, fucking people up, right? You know, putting them down. He put a whole bunch of Big Mom pirates down. Cracker and all these other guys, right? Hacks go to Aokiji. His devil fruit, there he could slow down Kizaru. He can catch him, slow him down. You know, the ice. And I do believe he has superior hockey as well. Slight edge in the armored hockey degree, that kind of thing. And don't say swordsmanship, nigga. Aokiji, what did he do when he fought against Luffy the first time? He brought a fucking sword out of nowhere. Do you not remember that? This man can do anything Aokiji or Kizaru can do, but this he's better. Environment wise, that's going to Kizaru because he was actually on Egghead and he's been there multiple times, even before he fought Luffy and shit, right? Because he was called there to help Vegapunk. But even with all that, the winner of this fight is Aokiji. High to extreme difficulty. Aokiji's gonna be the winner of this fight, though, man. Be cool, call in the corner, and let me know what you think about that in the comments, y'all.